Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
This is the truth. Not your truth as you see it, or my truth as I see it, but the truth of our times. what you're witnessing has happened before, is happening right now. Perhaps in your community, on your street. And will happen again tomorrow and the day after. Unless you care enough.
Why are they looking bug-eyed at me, man? I'm not skimming the cream off their milk. I'm not flashing a phony ID card. I'm not scuffing the shine on their shoes or walking where it says wet paint. I don't try to run a stop sign. I don't even stomp where it says keep off the grass. Where have they been? Pennies and booze and stick spring on the fuzz. This man, this is on the house. Kicks, man. Kicks. Stop being a mouse. Inhale. Exhale.
Inhale, exhale. Glue sniffing, the new terror, sweeping across the country, moving with the speed of a flu epidemic, and no antidote in sight. Los Angeles reported 600 cases in a 3-year period. New York City, 145 in less than a month. Phoenix, 63 cases in 4 months. Within the shadow of the White House, 300 cases in 2 months. Memphis, Miami, Boston, and what's the name of your town? You have it. It. Glue sniffing. Each generation of teenagers has its symbol of rebellion, its form of expression, signifying a search for its own identity, its own independence. In our time, in this 20th century, we've seen the goldfish swallower, the panty raider, the cubeb puffer, the sit-in. The pile-up, each an expression of rebellion. Until recently, most of us equated the glue sniffer with the typical teenage rebel, because even the authorities knew little, if anything, of its terror. No one could tell where, when, or whom this terror would strike. In the late 1950s, police officers began to encounter its victims in ever-increasing numbers. But these officials, probation officers, school teachers and principals, doctors and judges were hobbled in their attempt to cope with these sick, pathetic, often dangerous youngsters. There was no scientific knowledge, no law against glue sniffing, no expert who could advise. Yet on one thing they could all agree. Glue sniffing was no innocent, harmless teenage expression of rebellion. This is Dr. Joseph Robinson, an outstanding physician, a brilliant administrator, and since 1959, medical director of the Los Angeles County Probation Department. Shortly after assuming this post, Dr. Robinson had his first encounter with the problem. A query from a probation officer. A youngster in his charge had gone berserk and wrecked his room after inhaling the contents of a tube of plastic cement. This wasn't the first time it had happened. And this wasn't the first youngster the probation officer had encountered. What to do? Dr. Robinson's files turned up nothing. Medical files at County General Hospital, the UCLA Medical Center, the Surgeon General's office in Washington and elsewhere drew a blank. The statistics, the incidents of this teenage fad which had turned into a terror continued to mount. Moving quickly, Dr. Robinson turned the problem over to Dr. Jacob Sokol, chief physician at Juvenile Hall. A physician in the grand research tradition of Pasteur, Ehrlich, and Reed. If ever a man was destined to grapple with this problem, Dr. Sokol was that man. Dr. Robinson gave him carte blanche to create a body of knowledge, weapons of science to combat this terror. His first task was the gathering of statistical information. Dr. Sokol established a new procedure for all youngsters admitted to Juvenile Hall and suspected of glue sniffing. Each of these youngsters was given a thorough physical, a complete psychological workup, and lab tests, including tests to detect liver and heart damage. Within the first few months, 89 Juvenile Hall children were given this examination. They ranged in age from 8 to 18. There were 77 boys and 12 girls. There were 45 Caucasians, 37 of Mexican-American descent, and 7 Negroes. They covered the complete economic and sociological gamut. Youngsters from the so-called right side of the tracks, as well as those from deprived areas. They were subjected to intense and minute study. The results of this first sampling were impressive. A total of 18 physical and behavioral reactions to glue sniffing was noted. Buzzing, headache, dizziness, forgetfulness, somnolence, loss of weight. One youngster lost 20 pounds. Double vision, inability to focus, euphoria, tremors, muscle spasms in the neck and lower extremities, dilated pupils, decreased reflexes, numbness of the extremities, sneezing, coughing, and chest pain due to rhinitis and tracheobronchitis. No one youngster had all the symptoms. A cluster of 3 or 4 or 5 of these reactions were enough to point the finger at a glue sniffer. Towards the end of the first test period, a probation officer said, "We can almost pick them out now without seeing their records." But Dr. Sokol felt these statistics were inconclusive because they had been gathered after the fact. None of his staff had been able to observe a youngster from the moment he had begun to sniff glue. There had been only one observation of a youngster in actual seizure. One of 2 boys who had been arrested outside a theater for attempted rape imagined he heard barking dogs late at night and screamed. Dr. Sokol was quickly summoned. But this one observation was not enough. To confirm these statistics, Dr. Sokol, one afternoon, alone in his office, became his own guinea pig. This is what he experienced. A buzzing sensation in both ears. A terrible grinding noise. Head is very heavy. Vision is blurred, all mixed up, nauseated. Can't concentrate, doesn't remember address or telephone number. Legs tingle and become numb. Spots in front of eyes. Can't stand or walk straight. Must lie down. He awoke sometime later, sprawled across his bench. This single, intense, horrifying experience not only corroborated the statistics, but gave Dr. Sokol added insight to probe these youngsters, to reach them, to try to understand. The results of the laboratory tests were equally impressive. Blood tests revealed changes in the shape and color of the red cells and an increase in the number of white cells. Urine analysis revealed pus, albumin, casts, bacteria, and blood. Some of the youngsters showed evidence of liver and heart damage. And almost all of these glue-sniffing youngsters revealed a particular manifestation to anemia, with a possible projection to leukemia. Lab technicians isolated the one toxic ingredient in glue and plastic cement causing this terror. CH3, toluene, T-O-L-U-E-N-E. A benzene derivative. With the encouragement of Dr. Robinson and other county officials, Dr. Sokol getting for various medical publications, addressing student bodies and official groups, speaking on radio and television and to the press. Dr. Sokol was not alone. Doctors, researchers, scientists, the American Medical Association, civic leaders across the country and in Europe joined the battle against sniffing. In New York City, Dr. Harold Jacobziner, through whose efforts the city placed a ban on the sale of glue and plastic cement containing toluene to anyone under 18. In Texas, Dr. William Ackerley, who also alerted the public to the dangers of sniffing lighter fluid. In England, Dr. Julius Mary and Dr. Nicholas Zachariadis, who concluded that the continuing practice of glue sniffing is addictive, much like heroin. That the victim needs ever-increasing doses and experiences symptoms of withdrawal if he tries to stop. In 1964, a little more than a year after Dr. Sokol published his findings, two scientists in Milan, Italy, Dr. Enrico Vigliani and Dr. Giulio Saita, made public their results of a 20-year study on 47 workers in a shoe factory in the province of Pavia. These 47 men had daily contact with glues and dyes containing benzene in the manufacture of shoes. This study proved conclusively a definite link between contact with benzene and leukemia. The Hobby Industry Association, responding to this problem, has begun a research and educational program hoping to find a non-toxic substitute for toluene, and at the same time instructing model builders on the proper usage of glue and plastic cement. What you are witnessing has happened before. Is happening right now. Perhaps in your community, on your street, and will happen again tomorrow, and the day after. And the day after that. Unless you care enough.